Love above the butcher shop. Jenny Bacon loved Leo Comet for a little over a year when they were students at Lumpkins University in Yamaville. As a schoolgirl, Jenny Bacon was teased about her name. Welcome to Lobido Channel. A microstory fragment for people who are multitasking or who have short attention spans or are constantly distracted by cute videos on various social media sites or by constant ping of text messages on their smartphone. Jenny Bacon loved Leo Comet for a little over a year when they were students at Lumpkins University in Yamaville. One day after class, Leo Comet, this is back in the early 70s when Leo Comet was a student of literature and philosophy, and he was having an affair with Jenny Bacon, who lived above a butcher shop that supplied pork to a deli next door, famous for its ham on rye sandwiches. In order to get to her store, he had to follow a passageway. He would walk past the meat counters with all the meat on displayed under a glass counter. The meat could be cut according to the desire of the customer and wrapped in greasy brown paper. So he walked up creaky wooden stairs. It was a building built in the 19th century. It was old and had a wide bouquet of odors. The farther down in the building you went, the stronger and more varied the odors. But there were also special odors drifted upwards and even into the room, the shoebox apartment that Jenny Bacon rented as a student. As a schoolgirl, Jenny Bacon was teased about her name for a little while, but not for long, because she put people in their place by telling them that she was a descendant of Francis Bacon. Not the 20th century painter Francis Bacon, but rather the Elizabethan Francis Bacon. He was an advisor to Queen Elizabeth I of England back in the 16th century, and then after she died, King James I knighted him, and he became Sir Francis Bacon. Jenny was working on a thesis about a novel and diaries, based on a novel and some diaries, because Sir Francis Bacon was a man of science who was well known for his book on natural science. He wrote that originally he was gender neutral and living in Paris, and his birth name, apparently, according to these controversial documents, was Francois Lard. He got into trouble at the age of 18. He had an affair with a nobleman, and when the nobleman, he was manifesting as a woman, and when the nobleman discovered that he had male genitals, he created an uproar, and so he fled to England and changed his name to Francis Bacon. He did very well, although he ran into some difficulties, some financial problems, debt, and he had an enemy by the name of Coke, and so on and so on and so on. But he was a learned man, and it was his learning that got him through thick and through thin. And so this is the type of thing that Jenny Bacon was investigating for her master's thesis. spite of technological progress, civilization appeared to have devolved. Anarchy ruled during the apocalyptic war. Gangs, powerful forces, people with money would hire their own army. It was like a return to the Middle Ages, where people lived in castles and armies roved through no man's land and would lay siege. By their example, evil leaders made it possible for renegades to do anything. Leo Comet went upstairs to the little apartment of Jenny Bacon above the butcher shop. They sat at a little wooden table and talked about the state of the world while gazing into each other's eyes. She wasn't in the mood for discussing her thesis or Francis Bacon, although sometimes they did sit there and talk about it. Of course, all this stuff about his sexual identity was irrelevant, like the crackpot theory that circulated for a while that Francis Bacon wrote some of the plays of Shakespeare. Nobody took it seriously, but it made entertaining anecdotes, and that was woven into her thesis, the idea of entertaining anecdotes to provide a little bit of hot sauce to history and maybe attract students to study the past. It was a crazy time back then in the early 70s, especially at Lumpkins University. A lot of experimentation, challenging old ways. Some people claimed philosophy was irrelevant and painting was dead, and classical music had become either hypnotic and repetitive or too cerebral, so cerebral that you need to take a headache pill to listen to it. There was a lot of chatter, cocktail hour chatter, gossip, digging up eccentric details, trying to shake things up and make things entertaining, or even flaky and spiritual, new age kind of thing, like Vision Quest. Go and find a guru, or how to become enlightened, studying medieval texts, or Renaissance essayists. Read novellas, or the prophecies of Nostradamus, and then sing some of the songs of Nietzsche. Birth of tragedy, the tragedy of existence, and the joyous, blissful streaming, orgiastic, sexual streaming of Dionysus. That was in Nietzsche's Birth of Tragedy. The abstract, rational principles of Apollo and the life-affirming, joyous outpouring of Dionysus. Certain sections of Derrida's grammatology provided amusing anecdotes. The origin of language and writing, vowels and consonants, vowels, the cry of passion, orgasm, consonants, when you're in danger, crying for help, or trying to scare away a predator or tormentor. And then Derrida's discussion about Rousseau, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, 18th century French writers, Nouveau Héloïse, and how there was a comparison between writing and masturbation. Again, everything bathed in sensuality and orgasmic joy well before the time of Freud. After they were done porking, they sat down to some bologna. They pigged out on roast bologna with mustard and French fries.